Okay, hello and welcome to Myguy Reviews. I'm Myguy Monkey, and today I'm looking at a free PSN game called Big City Stories or Home Tycoon. On the UK store it's called Big City Stories, the EU store, PSN store on the PS4. But when I looked into Hellfire Games, who made the game, it's actually called Home Tycoon on their website, so presumably they made the game under that title, and then maybe they had to change it in different regions, I don't know. I am reviewing live, so it's unscripted and unedited, and it is UK night time, so I'm having to talk a little bit quietly. And yeah, as you should see from the title, it's a taxi game in disguise. But I'll take you through what the game actually is. It's a combination of games, so let's go to this view, and you'll see that actually this, hopefully you'll be able to see, this is actually a city building game. So it's very much, it seems like the big city part of it was probably a game called Big City, maybe a mobile game, and it's the standard sort of thing where you start off with just a few buildings, and you've got resources on the bottom right there, and you build various different types of buildings and upgrade different buildings to progress. So the resource we can see, there's the first one is population, I think the first one is productivity, actually, out of the population, on the bottom right there. The next one is population, the next in green is obviously cash, the yellow is energy, and then the last one is workers. This is a free-to-play game, so the workers is where probably the most limited resource. You can't build anything that increases your workers unless you're using coins, which you can see on the top left, and those are a resource. Those are the pay-to-play resource, but you don't have to pay for them. You can play the game without any of those things. Someone's arrived in the city. Okay, so going to take a look at the different types of building you can build and explain the basics of the thing. So you've got utility buildings. I suppose you're main mayor, you're the mayor of the city, and that you've got your town hall here, which is a that's one of the those types of buildings that allow you to build other buildings and other objects. We have money-making buildings, which such as this one, and they usually cost energy to upgrade and build, and also, in order to be fully productive, you need to have residential buildings that supply the financial buildings with the workers they need. If you don't have enough residents to supply the workers, then you kind of earn money slower, but the maximum that you can collect in each building doesn't go down, so you can still probably fill up the whole thing in one night most of the time. Although they've got different scales of value, starting very low and then working up, they always seem to earn to their full potential in the same sort of time, about 6 to 8 hours. The residential buildings also are, I can't see it in that one, but we'll go to, I think they're bought with money actually. Let's have a look. Yeah, so they used cash to build those, and the other type of building is the energy type of building, which costs cash as well. So you have sort of clean energy here, and they go upwards. And yeah, it's a basic city building game. You need to have the road connected to this bridge, and most of the buildings will have to be connected to a road in order to function. apart from a few of them don't have to, such as mostly the energy buildings don't have to. Also, the buildings have bonuses to each other. If I just move this, you'll be able to see there's a 1% bonus being surrounded by this building, and that's so they're putting them together. That's why I started with this strip of two wide going along here, so that they could maximise their sort of benefits to each other. And this is the most higgledy-piggledy set of buildings that I already have because of that purpose, but I've tried to sort of theme my city as I've built it up. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of the big city portion of it, and then we've got the stories portion of it, which is where things go a bit crazy. So it seems like they've adapted this city building game and sort of added the function, almost like if you've played theme park in the past, you know, you get a function where you can just walk around the park, and it's kind of off to do that. But they've done quite a lot of work on it, but it's kind of a janky effort. It's a little bit buggy, but not too bad. But janky is the word that I would use. The cars have very slow. You can get into cars, but they have very slow turning. There's a character creation, which is kind of gives you all those sort of options to tweak your character, like you would in sort of more AAA or bigger, more expensive games with a bigger budget. But they're kind of strange, like they can change to quite extremes, so that you can end up with huge arms and tiny legs in just one press of a button. So those things are quite strange. And the cars have a tiny turning arc, unless you're using the handbrake, and it's still quite difficult. The car you start off with is a sedan, which is terrible. I'm in the best car here that I've found so far, which is it's a sports convertible. They call it a sporty convertible, which you can just get by finding it around the place. And also, as you build police stations, ambulance, hospitals and stuff like that, you get those service vehicles driving around as well, which you may spot as we go around. But the stories aspect is that it actually gives you missions. I mean, I know a lot of building games will give you missions, but they take you right down to street level in front of buildings to talk to various characters who will give you missions. So if I drive you over there, I'll show you there's a character. I've done all the missions that I can so far, apart from this one, because it's requiring you to use coins really, which is a bit sneaky. But apart from that, you can play this game completely free, and you still can. But this particular mission is trying to get you to build another building that gets you workers, which you just can't do without coins. So it's a bit manipulative in that sense. But then so that gets you. It's quite a funny story. From the very beginning, how you become mayor is very short and comical. Not particularly way, but quite funny in a sort of silly way. And when you get to a certain point, you will be able to leave your own city, and people will be able to come and visit your city, and you can visit other people's. Unfortunately, there's not much to do in other people's, except, I mean, you can chat and emote, but it's not really much to that, because it's mostly about being in a car, and there's not really much to do, so the socialising aspect isn't particularly strong. But there are, it's giving you emotes and stuff. I've got this emote currently active, which is "Don't Tase Me," which I just think is hilarious, because you just land on the ground like that and you can just jump out. I mean, look, that's so janky. There's no real transition there. Yeah, so that's one thing that happens during the missions, along the mission strands. And the other things that happen along the mission strands is it will unlock a couple of activities. Now, the website calling it Home Tycoon, I think, was from 2016, and suggests that there was going to be a lot of new activities added all the time, but I don't think they really progressed it past the 2 activities, and eventually you'll unlock them. One is called Zombie Splat, and one is called Ride Sharing. And as you can see, coming soon, but probably never coming as far as I know. And yeah, so this ride sharing is where the taxi game comes into it. Build your own city, organise it how you want to, but as well as that you get to drive a taxi around it, so the ride sharing is part of the story. So it's not actually a taxi game, but it amounts to it. And yeah, and the good thing about these activities, especially this one, oh great, I've broken the thing already, is that you will that fix it? Yeah, that's fixed it. See, buggy. The great thing about it is that the coins that you can only get from once someone set up a firework that I've got, the coins that you can only get from purchasing with real money, you can actually earn by playing this taxi game. It doesn't matter how well you perform, it just seems to randomly give them to you, but it is very, very slow, but at least it gives you a way to do it, and frankly it gives a great motivation to actually play non-stop taxiing, which is something I love to do in games anyway. So, and the fact you can design your own city layout to create the sort of challenge that you want, I think is really good as well. And I've obviously opted to make it a functioning city as well. So I've left a lot of green space in the middle here, and this is the terrain when you don't leave any buildings or road, and it's quite bumpy. There's rocks, trees and rocks, and the rocks are hard to see, especially at night. They get covered up by darkness. And they get covered by trees, grass and stuff, so they're quite hard to see when you're rushing around, and that's one of the things, depending on what vehicle you're in as well, it can totally ruin your game, bumping into these things. The ambulance is quite good for the things you bash into, because it can't really stop them. You can't go through traffic lights, but say these water pipe things, they're easier to go through in an ambulance. But yeah, you can just do non-stop taxiing. I've picked up a fare now, so I might as well. So the driving isn't great, but it's not like impossible. And if you do end up on your side or anything, you can turn the vehicle over, same as you would in GTA 5, but it can still get quite stuck on things because of the janky nature. So yeah, every time you complete a fare, you will get a star rating, out of 5, and I got a 2-star rating for that. And you see, I think you earn a bit of money, you earn some XP, which obviously leveling up your mayoralship, but sometimes you get a bit of bonus energy or bonus buildings as well, bonus builders, workers, so that's a real bonus, because as obviously coins are restricted and workers are very restricted. Those things you can't really raise without paying. So it's great that you've got this way that you can actually earn something from just doing the taxi game. I love taxi games. Yeah, so all the buildings obviously give different challenge for driving through if you're using it as a taxi game builder. Some more than others, so you can definitely use that to really tweak the game. This whole strip along here I've tried to make so you can get through a little bit if you try, but excuse me, really, yeah, some of them like this bit here is just can get really stuck on here if you're not careful, and there's part of the jankiness of the game. But that part of the jankiness actually increases the challenge and makes it, as a taxi game, something to master, which, you know, is something that is a benefit to just driving around in a taxi. I mean, in other games like Grand Theft Auto, I really enjoy driving a taxi, and it can really get you into the flow of driving around the whole city. And it's the same same case with this, really. So yeah, that's basically my review of this. It's free. It's free to play online. I don't think you need PS Plus to play this, as many free games are. So that's a benefit for people that don't have so much access to cash. And yeah, when you do go online as well, or there's other people present, it can be very laggy. So laggy is really impossible to enjoy properly. But that's just part of the janky charm of it, perhaps. And yeah, you get these benches and things that just pop up in a sequential positioning according to how your roads are turning and stuff like that. Which is another great thing that you learn. You sort of get a feel for where they are and get better at sort of keeping an eye out for them when you're having to travel at speed. But you can also add individual objects, so you do have objects you can place, which I haven't done much of. But yeah, there's decorating parkour items. There's like ramps and things that, there's a loop the loop, which again, janky, does not work very well at all. You can't quite drive onto it for some reason most of the time, and it's very hard to get round it, but it is possible. I think it's just very, very janky. And of course you got some signs here, as you can see, which means you can put signs up places, which is nice. Most of the stuff I've got in this map came from the things that the missions led me to put up, and then just building up my city slowly. I've only been playing just over 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks, and I've already almost completed. Yeah, almost got. I think I've just about got access to everything now, and getting to that point. There is music, but I've switched it off because it gets repetitive, and also I prefer to listen to other music of my own. I like to put on playlists that I've made of GTA game music, so it's just like I'm listening to the radio stations in GTA then. So yeah, so that's the review, and I think I'll just show off my city now, what I've done with it so far, whether it's good or not. And the real shame of this game is that you can't actually do this taxi mission in other people's levels, so it's just for you. It would be really nice if you could do that. You start the game off with just a little road going around here. You've just got the garage, the business centre, a residential, a police station, and your town hall. and those are the only things that you need to start off with, and all the missions come out of people in those places. Oh, and the whatever this is called, trade school. Yeah, and it starts off at a little circle around there. I decided that I would try and take advantage of the beach, so I made a road going right down here. But then I've realised this beach wasn't very visible from this side. My town hall was here, so then I decided to move my town hall to over here, so it's facing this beach. So town hall all belongs to me. The beach all belongs to me as the mayor of the town hall. I wanted to go for a sort of New York middle park. That's the GTA version, isn't it? A Central Park feel around here. After visiting some other people's things, I didn't really want to go for an exact copy of anything like in real life, but I wanted to give that idea. And as a taxi driving, it's been really great. Just I've made it so that there's no road access to this side, although this gap has got smaller and smaller. But you'd have to cross these grassy patches. You can make them flat by buying flat land, but I like having them as a challenge to, if you want to get across at speed and get the higher rating, then you have to cross these precarious green areas. And I wanted to go again for that New York feel. I wanted it to be surrounded by flats, which, big apartment buildings and stuff, which I haven't finished yet. I've just sort of started the border there and there. This side all needs to be improved, I think, but I'm still earning from these things. Not quite sure what I'm going to do with all those. I try to keep all my power station things, all these windmills out the way, because you can't drive through them very well either, so they're all around the other side. And then I've sort of ended up making a little sort of a little bit of intricate roads around here, because a lot of people just seem to have gone for grids and just driving straight and on crossroad grids, and that seems quite boring, so I try to keep the roads as interesting as possible. So you can see there's some more residentials here that are a bit dangerous to drive through, and bends around here. The mall is over here, which just happens to get really junked up with traffic, which is quite appropriate. What else is there really? That's about it really. So yeah, a little bit of gameplay. I'll just do some taxi driving, hopefully. Do some repetitive taxi driving, because that's what I like to do. And hopefully, if you like taxi stuff, you might want to just join me with that. Yeah. Okay. Oh, there's a mini map as well that you can make. Zoom out to see your taxi fares and destinations a bit better. Some bonus energy there. I'd like to do a long playthrough of just doing this for ages, but it is quite late, so I probably won't be doing this for too long. Tells you the distance as well, and has the classic arrow like in Crazy Taxi, and has the nice bright beacon which helps you see exactly where it is, and that bottom bit which you can see exactly whether it's this side of the buildings or not. Four-star rating that time. Yeah, the other activity, the zombie activity, you actually have to start. But this one you just drive up to them and go. There's a bus that drives around as well, which is cool. I like a bus. Yeah, that's a nice little effect. I mean, they've done an okay job of this. Probably better than I could do, frankly. I'm sure I could do as well, given motivation, but I'd probably get halfway done and just not really finish it and finish making things, which is kind of what they've done anyway, because they've left things a little bit buggy. Yeah, but you know, they've left it so it's all playable. Oh. Looking out for rocks and manage to hit a tree. So it really helps if you even want to dodge anything to use the handbrake, which is L1. And that's something different as well. I mean, most games that I've played would use a handbrake on R1, but L1 makes more sense because that's all. L2 is the brake, so and reverse. So yeah, you can get to learn your own level, which is great. You know what you've built. It's a shame you can't make a second city without paying coins as well. So I'm getting to the stage where I could maybe afford that eventually. I wanted to make something different, but otherwise I'd just have to pull this one apart to change things. I mean, one good thing about this versus, say, GTA or Crazy Taxi is there's no timer. Literally the only timer is what rating and how much money and XP you'll get per ride. So there's no real time pressure. So you can just keep going, you can take your time in between, there is a way to repair your car as well at the garage, although it doesn't really affect you. Damage doesn't really affect your maneuverability or anything, so there's not necessarily any need for that. Although certain damage can kind of destroy a car, but I think that's unintentional. It kind of just bugs out if you bash your car so much that your wheels just buckle. But you know, what I call janky you could easily call realistic as well. So got my petrol station right near the mall. Both those items, both those buildings actually give off a negative area effect. That's why I've got them near each other as well, but they don't affect each other, but they're both out of the way. That seems appropriate. And yeah, I wanted to make the road go all the way around the map, just so that it have something with people to visit. I don't know if it would actually do any good, but for when people to visit, they just something interesting that they can't really just go drive straight over to, keep them intrigued, interested, rather than just being all on the grid. When you're in multiplayer, there are people that know glitches. I think because sometimes people come up to you when you're in a car and the car will just suddenly go anti-gravity and start to float off, but it looks great, so you know, not exactly trolling because there's nothing else much to do in the game. It's kind of cool. Maybe we'll visit some people, see if it happens, see what other people's cities are looking like. There I've made a little way through on these bits, you see. This is the repair place. The petrol station also works, but you only need petrol in the zombie game, the zombie activity. Down the back I also made those roads curl round, don't know if you noticed, near the town hall, such that going down the beach will occasionally be the fastest option. When I first set it up, it coincidentally happened quite a bit, but it doesn't really happen generally that often. I'll try through here. I'm sure I used to get more visits to the hospital too, but I've built more roads since then. Oh yeah, you can only build a certain number of roads. They don't cost anything. But you can only build a certain number of roads according to your town hall level. I've just leveled up to the final level of town hall, I think, which means I can add just some more roads, but I've always had the maximum number of roads already, and I don't think I need any more. Sort of curled them around and stuff already. And yeah, I also like to roleplay, so I like it when I'm picking up people from the sort of flats, apartments, buildings that I've just built, providing a service to those as if they're residents, but obviously they're just randomly placed, really. And also, you know, to and from the hospital, stuff like that. If you go out of bounds at all, so if you go out those mountains or into the sea, you just respawn at the town hall, and any people visiting will also do that. And there's no fares at the moment. There's one. At least I'm not getting stuck on those today. You can get stuck on these objects quite easily, but good speed helps. Yeah, and since the coins, I don't know if the coins get earned by a set time or just per ride. If it's per ride, then of course there may possibly be a way to farm the coins out of this game just by keeping to the minimum amount of roads as possible. They'll only go to roads that are connected to your bridge, so if you just have a small amount coming off the bridge, then you might be able to do quite a lot of ride sharing taxi missions in a short space of time and get quite a lot of coins. I don't really want to delete all my roads and stuff to find that out though.